Good evening and welcome to round 3 of the Wrong Stuff League. After last week's race at Suzuka, the championship has travelled all the way to Belle Isle in Detroit. A twisty, bumpy, tricky circuit which I'm sure is going to challenge the drivers no end tonight. My name is Sebastian Boscher Williams. Joining me in the production booth is Ian Fisher, but alongside me right now is Mike Braun. Mike, Belle Isle has got to be one of iRacing's trickiest circuits. It's so hard to overtake around here, and with qualifying underway at the moment, how crucial is it going to be for drivers to have a good qualifying here tonight?
Well, first off, Sebastian, welcome to Tuesday nights here at the WSRL. It's great to have you here. But as you're saying, qualifying is going to be just immensely crucial to get qualified up in that top spot and to be out in front of everybody, because it is going to be carnage out here at times. With multi-class going around, you're going to have the LMP cars coming around real fast. They're going to come up and lap these GT3 cars in the first couple laps for sure. And it's going to make for some interesting racing, and it's going to make for some spicy racing as well.
Spicy racing, I love the sound of that Belle Isle. It's an amazing track. I don't think I've ever commentated on a race around here that hasn't descended into some form of madness. As we said, qualifying underway at the moment. 7.5 minutes gone out of the 10 minutes available. 3 laps only for the drivers. Really not that much time, is it? Really, Mike, to get a good lap in. You've got sort of, say, your first lap where you can warm the tyres up and then 2 push laps. I mean, the driver's going to be under a lot of pressure here to deliver, especially with the walls so tight around the outside of the track.
Oh yeah, it's just, especially if you get out just a little bit and you brush that wall and get that 0x, it knocks your qualifying time off. So you have to be so careful around here and get around these turns nice and quick. As we're currently watching the number 7 car of Justin Hall coming around. Looks like his best time right now is a 1:27.5. That's good enough to put him 4th overall right now. About a quarter of a second behind our pole sitter of Garrett Powell.
Yeah, Garrett Powell, 1 minute 27.348. Currently heads out Alvis in 2nd place by just under half a tenth, just over half a tenth, I should say. Gritzko in 3rd, or in 4th. Hall has got 1 more lap, I do believe. Actually, no. Hall's qualifying is done. This is all academic at this point for the number 7 car. He will not improve on his time. Just wanting to get the practice in through turns 1 and 2 we go. Now, for the start of the race, Mike, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think we're going to see drivers take it easy at the start, maybe ease into the race, or try and do what they say do in Formula 1, let's say, where they try and make up as many places as they can on the start because it's so difficult to overtake? How do you see the first opening lap sort of playing out?
Well, there's going to be a couple guys that are going to pull Fernando Alonso coming in that first section and just try to pass everybody they can. But I think most everybody has kind of learned so far to sit back and at least wait till turn 3 before they start the chaos. But I think they'll get through 1 and 2 pretty good. And then turn 3 gets tightened down there, and it should be very interesting for sure.
Certainly will be. 30 seconds to go in this qualifying session. I think everybody wants to complete a lap has done so. Carlos Lopez Jr. has not been out on the track, so he deciding not to take part in qualifying. Steve Knight, though, is trying to improve on his lap time, but once again, he's already gone past the 3-lap threshold, so no real point in driving around the track other than getting more practice in. It is legal within iRacing to just keep on going as long as you don't reset to the pits, but that is qualifying done and dusted for round 3 of the WSRL Championship. As we start to bring you your results, Mike, I'll let you take us through. These are the championship standings, so this is obviously after 2 rounds. Take us through it, Mike.
Yeah, LMP class out in front of the championship is Luke Mann with 98 points. 2 points behind him is your winner of race number 1, Shane Larson. In the 3rd spot is Colin Arnold. 4th is Nick Ebby. And Jamie Southwell will round up your top 5 in points in the LMP class. In the GT3 class, your top out front right now is your race winner from round number 1, Justin Hall with 95 points. Round number 2 winner of Christian Gritzko in the 2nd spot. Braden Carroll in 3rd. Garrett Powell in 4th. And Jay Fuller rounding out that top 5.
Have a look at your grid. So Shane Larson is on pole in the LMP2 field. Luke Mann 2nd. Justin in 3rd. Samuel Michel 4th, Will Coffrey 5th, Audrey Kundal in 6th, Brian Long 7th, Jamie Southwell in 8th, Tyler Devala 9th, and Nick Edby rounding out your LMP2 field. Garrett Powell leads in GT3, Bradley Elvis alongside him in 2nd, Christian Gritzko 3rd, Justin Hall 4th, Billy Bowerman in 5th, Diego in 6th place, Marshall Doda 7th, Dominic Ancheko is in 8th place, Braden Carroll 9th, Austin Castro 10th, Jay Fuller 11th, Jamie Boucher in 12th, Brendan Johnson 13th, and the 27 car, the 19, the 37, the 2, the 23, the 46, the 14, the 54, the 912, the 33, the 16, the 279, the 17 car, 22, 79, that's Lilac Zer, and Eric Letsky is your final driver on the grid as we get ready to go racing here tonight, Mike. Now, we're not going to have a full formation lap, so the driver is almost immediately going to get into the racing action. Pace car is just about to pull away. You know, I was talking about what we're going to see at the start. Do we think we're going to see some form of chaos at the start, or do you think these drivers, these LMP2s especially, are they just going to want to play it safe?
Yeah, I think they're going to at least wait a little bit. They know that this is going to be sheer chaos at times, so they're going to try to lay back just a little bit and hopefully make it through around the first time. The GT3 car should be about 10 seconds behind these guys, so it gives them a little bit of space. And they're off. Go ahead and take it, Seb.
Larson just getting away straight and simple. He wanted the jump over 2nd and 3rd place, and he certainly got that. Shane Larson leads into turn 1. Long making a move on Southwell, Long up to 7th place. Jason Southwell down, as Jamie Southwell, I should say, down into 8th place. Southwell losing even more time. Marcel and Justin. Oh, that's wide from P2 there. He's in the barrier. That's Luke Mann. He's made a mistake. Larson looking absolutely home and dry at the moment. Gap is now up to 1.7 seconds. Luke Mann making a mistake. Can't quite see, Mike, if he picked up any damage, but I'm sure Mann ended up in the wall at some point.
Yeah, that turn 3 can be a little tricky if you come in a little hot trying to stay ahead of your other guy. And it looks like he's just at least jumped that curb and got into the grass at least. So he possibly could have gotten some damage, but it looks like we're going, oh, we got a GT3 car in the wall. That is Garrett Powell. That was your pole sitter.
Of pole sitter Garrett Powell. What has happened to the 87 Audi? So we're heading through turns 4 and 5. What's Powell going to do? Simply loses the rear, hits the wall. Major damage to the Audi. How did nobody else make contact with Garrett Powell? I do not know, but disaster for a pole sitter. This was his chance, wasn't it, Mike, to make up points in the championship standings. See, 4th at the moment. I mean, he had such a good points haul on offer today, but threw it all away on the opening lap.
Yeah, that cold tires and coming on to turn 6, that I've done that many a times. But that is a tricky section coming onto that back straightaway, and you want to be able to exit that turn and carry that speed down that back straightaway to stay ahead of that car behind you. And that car behind him was Bradley Alvis, now taking over that lead spot coming into 1 and 2. The long, twisty chicane start a turn down that short straightaway now. You got Gritzko in the 2nd spot, and Justin Hall running in 3rd. Diego Airy running in 4th. Braden Carroll in 5th. Billy Bowerman dropping back to the 6th spot from qualifying in the 5th spot. And as we go on board with Justin Hall, your third place car right now, all over that back bumper of Gritzko as they're coming in to turn 5.
Something's happened to Luke Mann. He was 2nd in the LMP2 class. He's currently dropping down the order in the LMP2 field, although on the back of Gritzko, heading up towards turn 7. What does Hall feel like he wants to do? What does he want to do? Does he want to overtake or play it safe? This is Luke Mann, I was mentioning earlier on. He's had some form of issue. He hit the wall on the opening lap. Maybe that damage starting to affect the number 82 car. Larson, though, with the fastest lap, 4 seconds quicker than the next competitor. So Larson in a world of his own. This is what happened to Luke Mann, Mike. This is into turn 7. Is he just going to simply understeer wide?
Oh, that is terrible. That is a tough break for him. A lot of damage is going to come on that front of that car. He's going to lose a lot of speed down these straightaways, and it is imperative to have your speed down these straightaways to stay ahead of the car behind you.
Surprised that we're not seeing more damage to the front end of Luke Mann's car, to be honest, because that was a really heavy impact. In fact, he's had 2 really huge impacts with the wall that I would have thought would be race ending, but Luke Mann now hustling and harrying a GT3. It's one of the Mercedes GT3 Evo cars, gets nicely out of the way on the exit of turn 6. We're on board with Nick Ebby at the moment, also manages to get past that Mercedes traffic, but now, Mike, we're all in the GT3 traffic, and this is when, you know, you have to be so patient as an LMP2 driver. It requires such skill. Just talk us through the viewers how difficult it is as an LMP2 driver to cleanly lap a GT3 field, especially around Belle Isle.
Yeah, this track is so tight, and it's so hard to see what's coming up ahead of you or behind you. Look at right there is nice and tight through there. Nick Ebby's still able to put that car in there. I would have backed out, but that was a pretty scary overtake right there for sure.
Whoa, and again, that's the 22 Porsche almost being put in the wall by one of the LMP2 cars. We ride on board with Bradley Alvis, your GT3 race leader. Gritzko, oh, there's a spinner in the background there. One of the Mercedes has gone round. Was that Gary Schilling that's had some form of issue? Schilling. See if we can get a replay of what's transpired with Gary Schilling, the 17 Mercedes. So this is around the waterfall turn. No dramas through there. Then he heads into turn 11, going to clip the curb. The rear spins up and he doesn't hit the wall. Crucially for Gary Schilling, no damage occurred, but look at this. Gritzko on the back of Alvis. Do we think that Alvis is going to have to start going defensive? Gritzko really wants the position. Is it in Alvis's best interest, I should say, to let Gritzko pass? Gritzko on the outside, though. They're side by side through turn 3. Scrap all of that conversation. It doesn't matter now. Gritzko is ahead of Alvis. Gritzko leads the GT3 field. Alvis down to second place. I was going to say, Mike, you know, does Alvis need to let Gritzko through and sort of follow him through, try and learn his lines? Because Gritzko's got so much more pace at the moment, but Alvis decided to go defensive, and it didn't matter. Gritzko clean around the outside of turn 3.
Yeah, Christian's obviously carrying his win from last week and just carrying that momentum down. Did we just lose Gritzko?
I think he's still on the track, but I think he might have had a temporary blink there, like a disconnection. So Christian Gritzko, I mean, that's really nerve-wracking as a driver, you know, because everybody in iRacing, they have a little box sort of at the top of their window that sort of gives them their sort of internet stats. And when that drops, it can be super distracting because you're thinking, oh, please, internet, just survive this race. So Gritzko may be carrying a few issues there.
Yeah, definitely. Out in the LMP class right now, you got Shane Larson in the 117 out front. He's already opened up to almost a 7-second advantage on Sam Measle in the 88 car. Larson is just done pulling away. Larson was your winner of round number 1, and he is looking to take that points lead and just pull away even more. Luke Mann, with his problems earlier in the race, he's down into the 5th spot, 13 seconds behind your leader. And that's just going to give Larson even more chance to open up that lead in points.
Yeah, Luke Mann not having the start to the race that he would have liked, but Shane Larson, the complete opposite. He can do whatever he wants to at the moment in terms of traffic management. That's a risky move on the inside of turn 2. The 23 obligingly gets out of the way, but Shane Larson really not being easy with the car. He's taking those high-risk moves, and once again, Larson on the inside of the McLaren into turn 3. Larson making more risky moves than I would have expected him to do, considering, Mike, he's got a 7.6 second cap. You think he'd be sort of backing off and allowing these sort of 50-50 moves to go unchallenged and only take the really easy moves to get past lap traffic.
That might be why he's already opened up to that 7-second advantage right now. He's already working his way through the 9th spot in the GT3 class. So, I mean, he has worked his way through, what, almost 30 cars already, and we're only on lap 6. That's been some pretty aggressive racing for Shane, for sure.
Super aggressive racing. Brandon Johnson, the 24 Audi, looks like he's been involved in some aggressive racing as well. That Audi not looking super fresh. Damage to the front and rear of his car. That will not be helping the performance one bit. And the Audi itself tends to be quite oversteery, quite a difficult car to drive at the best of times. So add in some aero damage and Brandon Johnson's going to have a super difficult opening stint. Unless he feels like he wants to come in, take a fast repair, gamble a little bit, but you can see in the background, Shane Larson, your LMP2 race leader, looming large, gaining so quickly on this top pack in GT3. It's a great view from Brandon Johnson's car. Look at how much quicker Larsen is under braking, showing the differences between the two classes. What's happened to, is it Angelico? Oh no, he's back up. I thought he's had some form of issue there, Mike, but I think all is okay in the end. So Brandon Johnson trying to get past Luther at the moment. Audi versus BMW, but that Audi is carrying a little bit of straight line speed damage. How much does that affect the car? So could you explain to the viewers how much is that going to affect Johnson's ability to get past Luther up into 7th place?
You're going to lose your acceleration off the turns and also your top speed at the end of the straight. I'm going to guessing about 5 miles an hour maybe, and that's huge when you've got a long straightaway like this, and you're just, if you're running in clean air and not in a draft, it's going to slow you down even more. But if you can get tucked in behind somebody, you can hopefully carry their speed down that straightaway, and I think that's what Johnson was doing with Luther. He was close enough to be able to keep his top speed up down that straightaway and not lose a whole lot of ground on him.
Yeah, really interesting how the drivers have to adapt to their car almost every lap. Another driver that's got a little bit of damage, Kevin Medea, the number 14 BMW. That car looking a little bit worse for wear. Bowerman now up into 2nd place. There he's back down, so I think the timing stands having a little bit of an issue, but everybody fairly, oh, that's very wide there from Medea.
I mean, yeah, I think you're right. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I was going to say is that how crucial is it going to be just to almost back off the pace a little bit through this middle stint of just making sure that you don't damage the car any more than wholly necessary, because we're seeing lots of what I'd call unnecessary contact with the wall at the moment.
Yeah, there's a lot of damage on a lot of cars out there. The winner of this race is definitely going to be the one that's going to have the cleanest car. It's going to be losing the less amount of time down the straightaways and the less amount of damage to keep him slowed down. Right now we're looking at Lilac Zier in the car number 79. She's running in the 19th spot right now, trying to close in on Koshko in the number 37 car coming into turn 3. Oh, we got one sideways in turn 3 back there. Not sure who that was sitting back there. Let's see what that is.
I think it was Chorochetsky, the 46 car. What's going to happen to the Canadian driver on the entrance to turn 3? Simply just brakes a little bit too late, decides to take the easy escape road rather than risking hitting the barrier. Now he's got to do the awful fine reverse gear. Of course, traction control on these GT3 cars, so you can't simply spin turn it like you say would an Indy car or any form of Formula car. So you either have to disengage the traction control very quickly or do a very awkward 3-point turn like you're doing your driving test or something similar. Alex there, though, she's doing a superb job. One of the only few McLarens on the grid, the flame-spitting McLarens. What an amazing sight to see a few McLarens out on the track. There's a Ferrari in the background taking the corner very waywardly. I think I'd have to call that there. Ferrari's really struggling at the moment, but I think you alluded to it perfectly, Mike. It is going to be all about who can keep the cars the cleanest, who can get the least amount of damage, who can just weather the storm. Talking of weathering the storm, Divac still trying to get past P7. That's Luther and Johnson. And then we have Tyler Divac. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit confused there. So we have Divac at the moment. He's trying to lap everybody in this little GT3 gaggle. In 8th at the moment.
Just waiting for the right time to get by them. As he comes down the straightaway where he's able to pull away a little bit, but he doesn't have enough horsepower. So I'm wondering if he's down on power right now, because he should have been able to pull them down the straightaway with no problem. There he goes, gets a clean shot coming into the pit straight and able to pull away and get by him. It looks like he's got another car right behind him of Jamie Southwell in the 9th spot, trying to close in that 304 car. So that delay of Tyler to get by that lap car is given a chance for Jamie to close that gap now within less than 1 second now as they're coming into turn 3.
And what effect does that have when you see the relative, closing, especially when you're trying to get past drivers? Does it make you sort of start thinking about moves that you wouldn't normally do? Do you start becoming more riskier, or do you think that a measure of a good driver is not feeling that pressure, as Southwell is closing up to the back of Divac at the moment?
I think you're right. It's a measure of a good driver is going to be patient and wait and go by when he can. And an impatient driver is the guy that's going to end up in the wall the next turn around, because he sees somebody closing that gap. He makes a bad move, bashes into the wall, ends somebody else's race as well as him in one shot.
Chris Fast has had some form of issue out on track according to our timing screens. Luke Mann as well, I think, has gone off at some point. He's dropping down the order. What has happened to the 82 LMP2? This is on the exit of turn 11, heading towards the tricky half breaker zone of turn 12. Is he going to rear end the Mercedes? Oh no, and straight into the back of another Mercedes, the 54. Almost contact once again. I think that was Jamie Southwell that they almost avoided contact with. And what was that? Do you think? Oh, sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, it looked like Mann was in the pit lane now, so he's probably going to get one of his fast repairs unless he towed it in. If he towed it in, he's going to have to wait another couple minutes to come back out. But these guys are getting 2 fast repairs for this race, so that's going to help them keep their cars clean, and hopefully it makes them not want to drive too aggressive because they have that extra fast repair on their pocket. But it gives them that chance to, if they do have a mistake or run into somebody on accident, it does give them a chance to get that fixed and get back out with full speed.
Yeah, the fast repair, the miracles of iRacing. Can't do that in real life racing, but thankfully it is in iRacing, especially at a track like Detroit. This is Will Coffrey at the moment having a fairly lonely race, 40 seconds off Larsen's lead, but just lapping away. The 57 doing a good job. Has he been into the pits at any point? Don't think he has. So trying to work out why he's so far down the order. But Coffrey still, I mean, you can't count anybody out in a race around Belle Isle. It's all going to be about who can get to the end. 50 minutes out of 40 completed. So still a long way to go in this race. But Larsen looking the class of the field at the moment. Although it does say
looks
that
like your
he
leader
is
in.
Leader in the pits. I think we're seeing the same thing there when he says he's coming into the pits, but according to my timing screens, Larsen still out on the track, but we'll try and clear what's going up there. But I mean, Grisco as well, both of our race leaders at the moment in their separate classes doing a superb job. Both have got quite dominatory gaps, and it sort of feels like who can challenge the race leaders. There's a car off though on the exit of turn 11.
That was Gary Schilling in the 17 car in a real tricky spot. And like you said, with the traction control, it's going to be hard to get him to spin around. And hopefully he doesn't get killed here coming around this turn. Somebody's coming around right now. And he is trying to inch his way out just to get around. He's making that 50-point turn to try to get turned around right now. Going above just to see how tight this is. You could see the cars barely going by. And he's trying to inch back just to be able to make enough turning radius. And it looks like he's been able to watch his relative too, which is so important on races like this. And he did a great job of getting it turned around and not collect anybody else. I've seen so many other races where guys are in there, they just smash into reverse, back up, and they take half the field out because the turn they can't see him over those walls in that next turn.
Yeah, superb awareness there from Gary Schilling. You're right, you could so often see drivers getting a little bit hot-headed, try and find reverse or hit the traction control off button and just spin the rear wheels up. Great control by Gary Schilling. Not the first time we've seen him spin on the exit of turn 11 this race. So Schilling really struggling with the tricky exit to turn 11. Really lots of undulation in the track. So difficult to get the power down. And ironically, the traction control that thwarted him being able to spin turn the car was the reason that he spun, clearly not doing its job, at least that of which it was intended for. Jay Fuller in the 13 Ferrari though, trying to catch up to Lilac Zer in the McLaren. Zer just falling off the back of Koshko at the moment, so it's Zer going from being the attacker to being the defendee. There's the 88 LMP2 making his way past. That's Samuel Marcel in third. Marcel, once again, another one of our LMP2 drivers having a fairly quiet race so far. Just lapping away, hoping to survive until later on, I think, when we're going to see a little bit more craziness. Jay Fuller, though, on the back of Lilac Zer. So, Mike, I'm going to ask you a really difficult question here. Where do you think is a good place to overtake around the circuit?
Well, I really don't think it's around that fountain turn like Miesel just turned. I think that's a better shot to wait until you get onto the straightaway. These turns are so tight and those walls come up on you so fast. There's no runoff. There's no way of just hitting a curb and getting out of the way a little bit. So the best time is definitely down the straightaways or into the braking zones, and make sure that they know you're there. You know, some of these guys do like to flash the lights when they're coming in or they're making a move, but at least know that the guy knows you're there. Don't make some real erratic move coming into a turn. Like right here, you get the who's that, the 912 car? Just nice move by Brett, just to kind of slide out of the way and lets Aubrey go by on the inside and takes that spot. So it's just, that's how it's done. You see the guy coming, you make a slow move or you hold your line. You don't have to, if you're the guy that's going to be overtaken, you don't have to be jerky and just bounce around, because that's when mistakes happen.
It certainly is. Aubrey, again, having a lonely race. Not too much action going on the LMP2 field at the moment. I'm sure that's going to change in a few laps time, but Larson still with that incredible lead. Just now it's up to some 20 seconds. I mean, crazy statistic there. Justin in second place, unable to match Larson's pace at the present moment. Gritzko as well. The gap is now up to 4 seconds between himself and Bradley Elvis. So once again, our race leaders doing a superb job. Nobody can challenge them at the moment, but it takes a small slip up, a small miscalculation of a braking zone, a little bit too eager on throttle, and your race can come crashing down. So certainly not over for the race whatsoever. But is that Gritzko now coming up to lap a few GT3 cars? I do believe it is. And Mike, you know, we've been talking about how difficult it is for the LMP2s to get by the GT3s, but it's even harder when a GT3 is trying to overtake another GT3.
Oh yeah, when you get a same paced car like that, you have to really pick your times at any moment you can. And generally, these guys have been doing a real good job all season long of when a leader comes up on them, to give them that room, to let them come by, because they realize they're faster. They've come up on them for a reason, and let them go by. And when they go by, you might actually learn something. You watch the guys go by and see what pace is causing you to be so slow. But as of right now, you're coming up on the field right now. This is our tightest battle on the track right now. In the 7th spot is Matthew Duder, right behind Agustin Castro and Justin Hall right ahead of him. So this is a battle for the 5th, 6th, and 7th spot. And it looks like Matthew Duder right there. Oh, we've got a car in the sideways in turn 3 again. That's an LMP car in that sideways spot. That looks like that is a tricky spot for hard braking. And that was that your leader, the 117 car down there? Let's take a look. Coming down that straightaway and into turn 3. Wrong replay. No, that was Tyler Davila. Tyler Davila, that was your 10th place car that got sideways coming into turn 3. Yeah, it just overshot it, did the right thing, and just waited for it to stop instead of hitting the wall or getting into that grass section there. But we're back on that battle for that 7th spot. Seb, how do you see this coming out?
I mean, I think if I was to, I need a fortune ball to work out what's going to happen around Detroit. Anything could happen. So easy to end up in a 3-car accident. I mean, sort of like a roadblockish-esque incident. Duda, though, very wide on the entrance to turn 11. That really put him offline. And now Castro just extending the gap at the moment. And now it is Duda coming under pressure from Braden Carroll. But Duda into the pit, so Duda decides that this is his time to come into the pits and get a new tank of fuel. Nobody
Probably
following
a great
him
time to come in with all that traffic right there.
Yeah, a really strategic. Oh, there's a big accident there. Who was that spinning out? There's an LMP2 involved as well. The 38 car is at the 30. So Tyler Devella and Castro coming together on the exit of turn 2, I should say. Contact, and then contact again, and then they all meet in the middle for a third and final time. Mike, talk us through this one.
Well, Agustin goes on the high side coming out of turn 2, hits that outside wall, it just goes straight into Tyler down the straightaway. Tyler didn't even know what was coming, and he just came right at his passenger door there.
Now you can see the damage to the BMW. I think that's some steering damage as well. Castro now has got to do the long limp back to the pits. It's been costing him so much race time. Luckily, he can take a fast repair. He can get out with a new car, but this time is just falling away as you watch the car limp back to the pits. Agustin Castro not having the race he would have wanted, and also Tyler Devalla as well, really not having the race. We saw him make that mistake earlier on at turn 3, and his race went from bad to worse with that contact with the BMW GT3. It's Brandon Johnson, the 24 Audi. He's having a fairly quiet race, one of the only few GT3s to not have too much damage to that car.
He had damage earlier in the race. He had that back bump. That back wing was tore down, and he
So
must have used his fast repair. Yep.
Good spot there, Mike. So we're already seeing some of the drivers on taking their second chance. But I mean, we're not expecting the cars to come into the pits again. So at this point, if you get any damage, you've got to carry it through to the end. There's a Porsche off at turn 10. Who is that? Diving down the inside is an LMP2. They're going to be side by side. So this is Carlos Lopez Jr. making a mistake. There's a whole train of cars behind him as we head south. This is the braking zone of turn 12. Goes a little bit wide, touches the tyre barrier, and then we're going to see everybody try and file past him around the outside. Lopez Jr. returns to the pits. He's going to be taking his pit stop and fuel that is mandatory in the race. But I mean, it just goes to show how easy, Mike, it is to make a mistake around here. And Lopez, I mean, that could have been a huge accident if things had played out ever so slightly different.
Yeah, Luke Mann came up him real quick in that black LMP car and had to get on those binders real hard to try to stay clear of him. And he was able to stay clear of him and keep on going. But this is how it's done. Down the back straightaway, you go wide, you let the guy go by, and you patiently wait for the GT3 or that other car just to slide out of the way. But Matthew Duder, he was probably the smartest guy when he pit because he was in that whole group of cars. And as they went into that front straightaway, I think it was the next lap, that is when that melee happened down that front straightaway with Agustin and Tyler. So that Duder could have been tied up in that if he had not pit on that lap.
I mean, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but Duda, yeah, playing an absolutely blindsiding strategic move. This is Justin Barrera. I think at some point he's
that was Luke Mann in the back
issue.
that was sideways. Your fourth place car in the LMP class was sideways, and he is stuck going the wrong way right now. His race is going straight downhill. Here he comes into, what is this, 13?
13, he's going to hit the bump on the apex. Oh, he's hit the curb, hasn't he?
Yep.
And that sent the car spinning. Has he kept it out of the wall? Somehow he has. Good spot there, Mike.
Yeah, with the multiple surfaces on this track, they've got so many different abrasions of concrete and asphalt and different versions, and it just makes this track so tricky, but it's what also makes this track probably one of the most brilliant road courses that are on iRacing right now.
I simply have to agree with you there, Mike. One of my favorite road courses to race on and to commentate on as well. But last week's race winner, Luke Mann, having the race to absolutely forget at the moment, down in 9th place. I think he has been into the pits. In fact, all of our LMP2 drivers have been into the pits so far this race. But Mann in 7th place. Southwell got past him after that spin. Gary Schilling, another driver who will be leaving the Detroit area, trying to forget this race as quickly as possible. Schilling had that sort of 55, 60-point turn on the exit of turn 11. He's got going again, but got traffic behind him, hustling and harrying him to get out of the way as we head through the tricky midfield section.
I think Gary Schilling should get bonus points for that turnaround because he didn't collect anybody, and there had to have been at least 15 to 20 cars that go by him before he was able to get it going straight. And as you can see the car behind him flashing his lights, showing his intent that he wants to come by. And that is your leader, Bradley Alves, wanting to come by.
Alves looks like really wanting, I mean, lots of flashing of the lights. I mean, how distracting is that for the driver ahead? Do you sort of pay attention to it more? Can it increase your risk of having an accident? Or is it simply a way of Alves just to show his disapproval at the situation?
I think it's a little bit of both. Alves is trying to get by. He is a lap car. He is the top car on the class, 2nd spot, and he's trying to get by a lap car. I mean, at this point, the guy should move out of the way and let him go by. That is kind of racing etiquette. It's kind of the way it is. And in iRacing, it does tell you, blue flag, move over. You're supposed to do these things. And he obviously waited just way too long, and Bradley was just flashing his lights. He's like, bro, let me go by.
Yeah, Bradley really not happy with the Mercedes driver. Maybe a little bit of stern words after the race. 27 minutes out of the 40 minutes elapsed so far.
And that gave Diego Area a chance to close that gap quite a bit. So 2nd and 3rd separated by about a 1.5 seconds right now. That is pretty close to your closest battle on the track. unless we drop back to the 4th spot with Justin Hall. And he's got Braden Carroll right behind him, coming through some lap traffic. Looks like they're coming through Lilac Zero to put her a lap down. And there is Carroll right now in the other McLaren in the 5th spot. Right behind him is Billy Bowerman in the 102. Not too far back in that BMW for Empire Racing. In the 7th spot, we've got Jake Luther in the 19 car. Jake a little bit back away from Bowerman, so Bowerman's able to pull away enough. What is that, 30-second gap back into that 7th spot. So I wonder if that pit stops are causing that big gap right now as everybody's starting to really spread out.
Yeah, everybody been into the pits at least once in this race. Interestingly, Dominic Ancello has actually been into the pits twice. He's just been overtaken by Stephen Koshko. As I said, that a little bit of a battle. This is Braden Carroll trying to get past Hall, as you were mentioning earlier on. Actually, no, I take it back. That's a lapped car. I do apologize. So Braden Carroll, is that McLaren up ahead of him? They're all getting a little bit confusing at the moment. The 27 car pulls out of the way. Makes no issue out of that. Diacomo.
Oh, big wreck in 3. Big wreck back in 3 right there. Looks like 3 cars towered in the wall there.
Yeah, I had a quick look at my timing stand and hell broke loose at turn 3. This is Samuel Marseille, the 888, or 88 car, I should say. Oh, and there's going to be a big braking maneuver there from one of the BMW cars. That's just not going to work. And Samuel just into the wall of his, not of his own fault, I should say.
Looks like Bowerman overshot the braking point. That black and purple car was Bowerman. He may have just overdrove that turn trying to get by the lap car also, and then he backs into the lap car to add insult to injury. So that just was all wrong for all those guys.
Yeah, not a good showing of driving there. We've seen, you know, Bowerman drive supremely well. We were saying how well he was doing only a few laps ago. But yeah, Bowerman will not be wanting to remember that move, just as we said, too late on the brakes. A little, not too much damage, though actually Bowerman got away fairly scot-free. I wonder if the LMP2 has a little bit more damage. He'll have front and rear for good measure. Bowerman still in 6th place at the moment, but now look at that gap. 9 seconds to Carroll in 5th. And we'll have a look at a replay. This is Zach Robinson, the 16 Porsche. This is into turn 4. So we have Chris Fast now with a different replay. The 54 car. What is going to happen to him? Oh, he's going to take the entrance curb. Oh, and rammed there by the 11 LMP2. That's Tyler Davala. And then a quick tow back to the pits for Chris Fast. And you have to get the sense that Fast feels like his race is over, and another driver that will be wanting to find the nearest flight out of Detroit.
Yeah, bad things happen in Detroit, and it is really not letting us down. This has been a race that we've been talking about how exciting it was going to be and how much just the cars are going to be everywhere, and it has not disappointed in one bit. And the city of Detroit just does not disappoint many. Oh, and Tyler Davila misses this turn again. This has got to be the 2nd time he's done it that at least we've seen. No telling how many other times it may have happened. But turn 3 can be definitely it is so bouncy coming into that section. And if you miss your markers, you're either going to go straight into that wall or you can go into that runoff and try to make that 50-point turn to get back on this turn.
It's such a split-second decision, isn't it? Let's have a look at Tyler Davala. You mentioned this in commentary, Mike. He's going to simply lock the brakes, go straight on, and choose the easier option, just head down the escape roads. You see, of course, no ABS for the LMP2 cars. That's one of the key differences between the LMP2 cars and the GT3s. Oh, Tyler Davala once again into the wall. I think that was on the exit of turn 12. Bradley Elvis, though, in 2nd place. And Tyler Davala, I mean, we're either seeing drivers have supreme races, you know, showing their absolute best car control. You know, Shane Larson springs to mind. 30 seconds the gap is now, incidentally. Grisco as well. And then Tyler Davala, that just seems to be really struggling at this circuit, just keeps on sort of making these sort of rookie mistakes. And it's just showing how difficult this track is and how Oh, that's going to be really tight. Tyler Divac trying to get out of the way of the car, stopped at the apex. Thought we were going to see a huge accident once again into turn 3. Divac avoids any form of incident. That was Steve Knight that almost got involved in that as well. But going back to my point, Mike, you know, we're either seeing drivers really excel around here or really struggle around Belle Isle.
With the first times that I came around this track, I really did not like it. It took me probably 100 to 200 laps to even find any kind of rhythm. And if these guys did not put in their practice during the week to get ready for this race, it really shows. And I think that's why Christian Gritzko and Shane Larson are just the lead of the field right now, and they're able to pull away with these big, large gaps because they've sat here and practiced all week long and getting ready for this week. As you got the third place car, the 177 of Diego Ari, coming down that straightaway, and it's getting passed by an LMP car. Behind Diego, about 2 seconds back, is Justin Hall, trying to work his way back up in the field, sitting in that 4th spot right now. You really mentioned about the McLaren with that flamethrower coming out of the back of that car. One of the best graphics cars and exhaust in the game, but it is a tricky car to drive as well. As you mentioned earlier, the Audi being so tail happy so much. I think the McLaren is like just one little step back, so a little more stable away from the Audi. So I think the Audi is probably still one of my favorite cars around here, but that McLaren is not too far behind it.
Yeah, McLaren so tricky to drive. Don't see too many of them in the official sessions anymore. Disappointingly, I mean, it is one of my favorite cars to drive. So underrated. Luke Mann once again finds the wall, this time on the exit of turn 6. Again, Mann really struggling with this circuit. Jamie Southwell as well, at some point, has retired from the race. He will take no further part. I think he's been into the pits 3 times, so one would hazard a guess that he's used all of his 2 fast repairs. Just look at the suspension working on that LMP2 car. Such a bumpy track. I mean, it's famous, isn't it, Belle Isle, for its bumps. It's even bumpier than Sebring.
Which is hard to believe because Sebring is really tough, but until you actually get a seat in a car on this track, you'll never realize how bumpy it is. I bet you if we go on to an in-car camera shot right now, you could definitely just see how much this really goes through. And I mean, this is a virtual race. It doesn't beat you up, but that bump in turn 2 right there is brutal. You're trying to carry as much speed through there, and if you take that turn 2 just a little wrong, it'll push you straight into that outside wall. But as you're coming into turn 3 here, oh, you overshot it just a little bit there. And this is not too bad, but wait till you get onto that back straightaway. Wait till you hug that right side wall down that back straightaway, and the car just seems like it's going over moguls like a motocross track. It's just insane as they hit this back straightaway now with Luke Mann in that 5th spot.
Yeah, Luke Mann really struggling. Almost seems like he's overdriving the car at this stage. As you mentioned, he was deep into turn 3. Can't get past the GT3 up ahead. He's going to have to wait at least until the next apex. Going to be really tricky to dive down the inside. Decides against it, thankfully, but gets the over and down the inside into turn 8. Easily done for Luke Mann. Well, what's happened to Diego Ari? I think he's had some form of issue, has he? This is Christian Gritzko in the lead, but Diego Ari was in 3rd place. Is that Justin Hall behind him already? Diego Ari really struggling, spins on the exit of turn 8.
Wow, brilliant drive for Hall to get by him without hitting him. That is amazing.
Supreme driving. I mean, oh, go on, Mike.
Well, we were talking earlier about the Audi and the McLaren being so tail happy, and that's exactly what happened to Diego Ari. Diego always runs a McLaren. I mean, almost every race he is always in a McLaren, and you think by now he would have a better control of it, and it just lost it around that turn, and Justin Hall making the brilliant move to get by into the 3rd spot. And we've only got 3 minutes left in this race. What's going to happen to this last 3 minutes? Do you think anybody's going to make any battles left? What do you think, Seb?
I think you can't count anything out. I think everything's sort of just bubbling away very nicely. Fortunately, what I was predicting earlier on, Shane Larson and Christian Gritzko coming under pressure hasn't come to fruition. The gap is now some 31 and 11 seconds for both of our race leaders. So I don't think we're going to see much in terms of the top of the standings, but everything seems like it's just bubbling away, and we're going to have an absolutely supreme end to the race. I just wondered, just very quickly going back to that spin that we saw for Diego Eri, you know, you mentioned that he runs a McLaren at every race. Do you think that's a lack of understanding of the car itself, or is that a setup thing that he can maybe continue to tune out? Somebody's hit the wall, I think, as we have a look at Shane Larson, our race leader. But yeah, is that a setup thing? Is that a driver thing, or is it a little bit of both?
Well, I think it's, well, these cars are a fixed setup, so it's not things that you can go and change, but you can change your brake balance. So maybe it was in a braking that he got the back tires a little too overheated and got the car a little sideways coming into that section. If I remember correctly, it was around the fountain area. And that track section can get a little weird because it's a little undulated. It comes up a little high and down a little low. And he just got a little sideways through that section and just couldn't bring it back around. But he has a great understanding of that McLaren, because I've raced against Diego multiple times, and I've just in awe of how he's able to get the McLaren around any track that he's ever been at, because there's some tracks that are stronger with certain cars and others, but he is always running that car and always laying it down. As we've only got 1 minute to go, Seb, let's take home the leaders here.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that the race is almost finished. I want it to continue for another 40 minutes, if that's okay, by the drivers. Again, amazing action we've seen so far. Braden Carroll, at the moment, he's in 4th place. He's up some 7 places from where he started. So Braden Carroll doing exactly what he would have wanted to do, just gain those positions. So 11th to 4th for Braden. Again, superb job. And yeah, I keep on going back to what I said earlier. It seems that either drivers are really liking this track, getting to grips with it, or really struggling with the circuit. There is the white flag, 1 lap to go. Braden Carroll through turns 1 and 2. I think that's Luke Mann on the exit of the pits. He won't be any form of issue for this man, Shane Larson. The 117 car led from start to finish, got the perfect jump, didn't he, at the start of the race? Took everybody by surprise, led by almost a second by the end of the first lap, and since then just increased his gap. His fastest lap some 0.6 quicker than the next fastest driver. So Shane Larson just in a league of his own so far today. It was Luke Mann's race 1 week ago at Suzuka, but Shane Larson changed all of that here at the streets of Detroit. Now he's just got a few more corners to go into turn 7. Makes that look very easy now. We head around the waterfall. Seen many a drama through this section today. But again, he just takes it nice and calmly. No need to push at the moment. He's got no pressure from behind. He can cruise. He can even stop and have a cup of tea if he's feeling particularly adventurous. Through turns 12 he goes, stays well away from that tyre barrier where again we've seen drama today. He already starts his celebrations right now. He knows that he's won the race. Shane Larson comes around the final corner to take the win. We see Grisco also starting his final lap. So Grisco, another lap to go before he can claim the victory, but Elvis has already finished, so Grisco just got almost a parade lap to do. He's going to have no threat from behind Grisco. I mean, what a supreme drive, Mike, from both of our race winners, or class winners, I should say. I mean, they've just dominated the race. We've seen no mistakes from them. I mean, Larson's led from start to finish, and Grisco made that move earlier on and just kept the lead from there.
Yeah, what we were saying earlier about practice, and it looks like that's what Gritsko did. He was in here probably in this race. We'll have to talk to him during his interview about how much time he put in, because it showed. He was patiently waiting and waited for his chance, and he got by and took the lead and just ran away and hid. In the LMP class, Shane Larson just going back to what he did in week number 1 of just taking the win and just running away and hiding. But in the LMP class, Justin Barrera finishing in 2nd. We didn't even talk about this guy the entire race, and he ends up in 2nd in the LMP class. That is his best finish all season in the LMP class.
Yeah, I mean, great driving by Justin Barrera. You're right, we haven't seen him at all. Just goes to show his sort of anonymity in the race. Didn't make any form of mistakes, didn't do anything that came up on our timing screens. Just lapped away, did exactly what he needed to do. This is Stephen Koshko now crossing the line. He will finish in 14th position. Sets his personal best lap on the final lap of the race. Augustine Castro, what could have been for him if he didn't have that incident on the exit of turn 2. I think it was with Tyler Davala in the LMP2 class, but I do believe that is everybody across the line. Mike, take us through your round 3 race results.
In the LMP class, Shane Larson is going to take that win with that whopping 31-second advantage. In the second spot goes to Justin Barrera. That brilliant drive from Justin. As you said, we didn't even talk about him the entire race, and that's usually a good sign around Detroit. Less damage, less problem, less incidents, and hangs on to that second spot. Samuel Meeser ends up in third in the 88 car. Nick Ebby ends up in fourth. Aubrey Kundal in fifth. Will Coffey in sixth. Tyler Davila in seventh. And Luke Mann, with the race he wants to forget, ends up in eighth. Taking your win in the GT3 class, Christian Gritzko got that pass done and just went away and hid. Bradley Alvis finishes in second, Justin Hall in third, Braden Carroll in fourth, and Diego Era ends up hanging on to that fifth spot. We're going to look at the fastest laps. The fastest laps are going to be sponsored by Into the Apex podcasts. And in the LMP class, looks like it's going to tenth of a second faster than your next fastest car of Justin Barrera. And taking the win in the fastest lap for the GT3 class, it looks like it's going to go to your winner as well, Christian Gritzko, with a 1:27.8. I bet you those guys both did that early on the race when they had a clear track ahead of them and were able to lay that fast lap down to get that bonus point.
Very right, and yeah, I mean, even with all the offset that you have with the less fuel, I mean, the traffic was so crazy around there. But talking of the crazy traffic, we can talk to a man that managed to battle all of that. Shane Larson is in the waiting room. Let's bring him in to the commentary booth. Evening, Shane. I mean, a supreme win from your side. Some 31 seconds, the gap between yourself and second place. Talk us through that race. You must be absolutely buzzing after that one.
I mean, that's street course racing. I don't even know. Was just doing my thing. I think I only hit the wall twice. I really just wanted to keep this clean. I knew it was going to be carnage. I wanted to just stay out of the thick of it. Had to qualify good. I knew that. Did that. Just got away and just, I don't know. I just cruised. Took a Sunday drive on a Tuesday.
I mean, it didn't look like that from whenever we drove on or rode on board with you, I should say. I mean, it looked like you were really pushing the limits out there. I mean, your fastest lap was some 8/10 quicker than anybody else in the LMP2
Wow.
field. So, I mean, you clearly had the pace out there. And you mentioned, your strategy coming in was just to sort of take it easy, avoid the damage. Do you think that that's what gave you the win, or are you just naturally quick at Belle Isle?
I mean, I've only ever raced maybe 6, 7 races at Belle Isle when they were official this last iRacing season. So I haven't driven here a bunch, but my strategy I think did come in handy. I knew there was a bunch of accidents going on. I think Luke got in a couple accidents, so I might have to go look at those a little later. But yeah, I think it was just keeping clean, to be honest.
How was the traffic for you, Shane? I mean, how was the GT3 cars? Were they courteous, or was there some that were just, waiting to hold their line, trying to fight themselves, or were they, doing a good job and just staying out of the ways?
There were definitely a few that were courteous enough to let me go on by. But I would see racing go on ahead of me where they were racing for position, and I just let them do their thing, let it sort it out, and then just go by when I knew it was safe. Didn't want to throw away a good opportunity or a good position.
Well, brilliant racing, Shane. It was awesome to watch. You definitely had the class of the field this week, and congratulations on your second win of the season. Anybody you want to thank or anything you'd like to say?
I'd like to thank whoever I invited to come watch, and then I'd like to thank my team, SRD Sim Racing Development. We have a great team. We're talking all the time on the comms, helping each other out, doing what we can, and yeah, it's a great team, and I appreciate being on with it. So yeah, and thank you guys.
Well, awesome work, Shane. Congratulations. Go ahead and relish in your win. We look forward to see you next week at Spa.
Look forward to it, guys. Thanks.
Thank you. So that was your winner in the LMP class. And so in the GT3 class, your winner in the class is going to be a repeat winner. Second week in a row, the winner in the GT3 class is Christian Gritzko. Christian, congratulations on the win in the GT3 class. How did your race go? How did you get through? I mean, you made a brilliant pass to take over the lead.
It was just pretty much hoping I would be lucky throughout the entire race because it's just walls. There's no runoff. It's a tight circuit. Plus, with the LMP2 class also lapping us, I was just hoping for luck. That was pretty much it. I knew that for turn 3, the best way around was to go on the outside, just 'cause it's a little bit quicker. And the inside, you have that little hump, so it just slows you down way too much.
So how was lap traffic for you? We were just talking with Shane asking about lap traffic, and he said there was a few guys that were out of the way and moving out of the way for him. But how did lap traffic work with you? Even the faster cars or the slower cars?
Everyone was pretty good when I was beside them. Um, I didn't have any actual like grievances against anyone. There's a few cars that did take a while to move out of the way, but at the end, because of the gap that I had to second place, I wasn't too worried. So I didn't really push anyone out of their comfort zone just to get by.
I mean, and just from my side, Christian, supreme racing from you. I mean, you talk about practice. How much practice did you do before the race? Did you come in here fairly blind, or had you done a lot of practice? Heading up to tonight's race.
To be honest, not too much practice. I would say probably a total of an hour and a half of doing laps. I do know this course pretty well with open wheel cars. This was my first time racing it with the GT3 cars, and I was struggling. I don't know how I managed to qualify as high as I did and to finish as high as I did, but I'm sure other people had just a tougher race than I did. But I didn't feel like I was too prepared coming into this race, but I'm still, I made it here. So
Yeah, you made it here. Not only did you make it to the end of the race, you made it to the end of the race on the top step of the podium. So, I mean, supreme drive from yourself. Before we let you go and celebrate your superb race win, so anybody you'd like to give a shout out to at all on the broadcast?
of course, to my girlfriend Lindsay and her sister, if she's watching, I don't know, she might be bored. Uh, but pretty much shout out to everybody in the league as well as the league admins for setting this up. It's a pretty fun and competitive league, and I'm glad to see the turnout. Every single week. It's not dwindling down as most leagues would. So, shout out to everybody involved, including you guys.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for showing your supreme talents around this track. It was great to watch, and hope to see you in 1 week's time when we head to Spa.
Thank you very much, guys.
And that was your GT3 race winner, Christian Gritzko. And Mike, there are your race results once again up on the screen. Shane Larson won in LMP2. Christian Gritzko, as we were just talking to him, your victor in the GT3 class. I mean, how can you sum that race up, Mike? I mean, it was carnage, it was crazy, but it was great all at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. It was a great race, but it showed the patience, the guys that had the patience to actually hold on to their cars, not make any crazy moves, and keep their cars just straight going down the lane. But I was definitely a little surprised to hear from both winners saying that they didn't really put a whole lot of time in. I mean, Shane did mention that he has a lot of experience with different classes here, but it sounded like Christian didn't have a whole lot of time here. And this is a track that I really think you do need a lot of time to get used to all those little nooks and crannies, all those little bumps in every turn and every straightaway.
Yeah, equally as surprised from my side that, yeah, the two drivers that seemed the most comfortable around here didn't do, as much practice as maybe we were both expecting. But just goes to show, the caliber of drivers in this racing league. I mean, on the flip side, some drivers really had a race to forget, but I'm sure in 1 week's time when we head to Spa, a more conventional circuit, that we're going to see those drivers who maybe struggled around here bounce back, and it's going to be again one to watch, I am sure. Well, from myself, Sebastian Voscher-Williams in the commentary booth with Mike Braun and Ian Fisher in the production booth, thank you very much for tuning in to round 3 of the Wrong Stuff's Racing League. We will be back, as I alluded to, in 1 week's time when the championship heads to Spa. But until then, we wish you thank you very much, and we wish you goodbye.